Yes, hello, good afternoon, everyone. Before we proceed this Pan-African experience sharing that begins today and will last till the 18th of August, just a few key instructions as to technical instructions as to for this particular meeting, so that it will conduct itself in a smooth manner. Um, so very basic technical aspects regarding the Zoom where we are currently at. So for optimal viewing of the webinar, kindly mute yourselves and refrain for activating your camera, particularly if you know that you may encounter certain internet connectivity issues. We have a wonderful roundtable discussion coming up, followed by experience sharing. So if you have any questions or comments whatsoever, please do not hesitate to use the chat button below. In regards to we will be using, aside from the Zoom, we will be using two online tools, a Google Jamboard and a tool called Mentimeter. Regarding the Mentimeter, after a certain portion of the event, we will be using this particular tool. So very simple. I will be sharing my screen. Kindly go to menti.com and input the code that will be shared on the screen that you will be able to see. And once you are in the Mentimeter presentation, you will have the possibility to answer a certain question that you will see on your screen. So kindly use it so that in order to ensure as much interactivity as possible. Aside from that, we will be also using a tool called the Google Jamboard, where I will also send you a link via the Zoom, and we'll also be sharing my screen in order for you to access that Jamboard, and more so will be explained, but it is very similar. You will have access, you will be presented with a question, and you will be encouraged to participate using a variety of tools, such as Post-its and sticky notes in order to add your input to make this series of webinars as interactive as possible. Finally, we have a child safeguarding policy that we will implement for today's event and for tomorrow and the day after next. So to that end, any speakers today or any participant who are under 18 years of age are to be identified only with their first name. Similarly, if you're a child of 18 in the audience, we do not ask you to include your full name as your Zoom name, and invite you to use your first name. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to come to me for any concerns or questions. Finally, if I could ask everyone to rename yourselves to your name and also your country, so that we may be able to know from where you are connecting from. I will be adding those instructions via the Zoom. Thank you very much, and back to you.
Yes, and one final instruction before we open is that we have interpretation available in French and Arabic. You have to go on the bottom of your screen and click on the globe that you see and choose either original audio, English when there will be presentations in French and Arabic, or French and Arabic when the main language in the plenary session is English. Thank you very much. And Sal, over to you for any technical question. Again, do not hesitate to write in the chat and we'll help you out. Sal, over to you.
Thank you very much, Eleonora. Thank you, Xavier. Bonjour, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, depending on where you are joining us from. My name is Salim Sal. I'm the Senior Program Coordinator of UNESCO ICBA, and I will be moderating this session today. The session on the topic, Transforming Pedagogy for Peace, Resilience Building, and Preventing Violent Extremism through Education and Youth Empowerment in Africa. It's a Pan-African online experience sharing. The experience sharing meeting today will have the following format. First, we'll have a roundtable conversation moderated by Ms. Mena Mosba, youth representative. And this will be followed by the mixed group discussions on opportunities and challenges faced while integrating and implementing the program. This will be in a format of breakout sessions based on language. And after that, we'll have a plenary session moderated by Mrs. Eleonora Mora from Arigato International and Dr. Yerusalem Asmarao from ICBA. But before that, let us go through the opening ceremony. For the opening ceremony, we have the honor to welcome Dr. Yumiko Yokozeki, Director of UNESCO ICBA, for her welcome remarks. So, Dr. Yumiko, you are with us, I guess. I give you the floor. Yumiko? I can see you, but I cannot hear you very well. I don't know others.
Can you hear me now?
Very well.
Yeah,
Yes.
when we were practicing, I could use the microphone. But anyway, thank you very much. So Her Excellency Ambassador Ito Takako, Embassy of Japan, Ambassador of Japan to Ethiopia, guest of honor, Mrs. Dora Kitara, Director of Policy Partnership and East African Community Affairs of Ministry of Education of Kenya, Dr. Ruksako, our dear colleague, Senior Analyst at the Department of Political Affairs, Peace and Security, African Union Commission, and he's in charge of AU, Youth for Peace and Africa Program. Ms. Victoria Ibiwe, a founder of One Africa Child, and who is going to give us a keynote today, my dear friend. And Mrs. Maria Lucia Ribe, Executive Director of Arigato International, co-organizer of activities. Ms. Mena Mosba, youth moderator, together with the youth delegates from Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Kenya, and Tunisia. It is my great honor and pleasure to welcome all the participants to this Pan-African online experience sharing meeting on transformative pedagogy for peace, resilience building, and the prevention of violent extremism in Africa. This 3-day experience sharing session is organized under the project that ICBA leads with the support from Government of Japan, titled The Prevention of Extremism and its Resurgence Amid the COVID-19 Pandemic Through Education in Africa, aligned with the spirit of TICAD 7 and NAPSA. Today, we live in a world that is highly unpredictable and rapidly changing. The COVID-19 pandemic is apparently one of the manifestations of such, and it brought multiple ramifications for our social, political, economic, and emotional well-being. I'm sure we all realized how interconnected the world is and how interdependent our lives are. Connected the world is, and how interdependent our lives are. Although all of us got impacted by the unprecedented pandemic in one way or the other, we also witnessed that each of us was affected differently based on our underlying conditions. One of the negative consequences widely observed is a breeding ground for violence that is triggered by the exacerbating socioeconomic conditions, as well as people's felt frustration and the social apprehension. In face of such vulnerability, coupled with school closure, deprivation of job opportunities, and unmet social emotional needs, young people are often at the forefront of such fragility and violent activities, very unfortunately. Yet at the same time, we have been witnessing that young people are playing an important, very active role in addressing peace and security issues across Africa. We will be hearing from them, and we'll be having these amazing young people moderating our session. They have demonstrated their optimism and motivation in leading positive changes in their society through alternative ways and places. The important thing is that young people have the opportunity and a safe space to be heard and to be consulted, to be equipped with appropriate competency, and to be empowered to engage in such problem-solving activities. Over the past 2 years, UNESCO ICBA has been working to strengthen the capacity of educators across Africa on the transformative pedagogy. This approach as a fundamental strategy for violence prevention and social cohesion. Transformative pedagogy is an innovative pedagogical approach that empowers learners to critically examine their context, beliefs, values, knowledge, and attitudes, with the goal of developing space for self-reflection, appreciation of diversity, and critical thinking. Throughout the work, we came across positive movements and initiatives emerging in different countries in Africa. Thus, decided to collect those homegrown good practices for further expansion of education for peace initiatives. It is very exciting to see this sharing. This 3-day session is intended to create an opportunity for young advocates, Ministry of Education officers, and education practitioners across Africa to share their stories and learn from each other's experiences. The presenters we invited are those who have participated in our programs in the past and are currently actively engaged in peace building through education efforts in their respective countries. Today, the session focuses on experience sharing from youth delegates. I'm particularly excited to hear from young leaders about their creative efforts and inspiring stories, really inspiring. Last but not least, I would like to take this opportunity to express our deepest gratitude to the government of Japan for their continuous support. Many thanks also to the partners, presenters, and all the participants who joined today and made this important event possible. I would like to invite all to actively participate in the conversation. I see a lot of technologies to be used. I hope this experience sharing meeting will be beneficial for all of us. Thank you very much. Salut.
Director, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you very much. Over
Thank
to
you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Yumiko, Director of UNESCO IGBA. Thank you for reminding us about the objectives and also that it is a 3-day webinar. It is a series of 3 webinars going from today to the 18th of August. You have also reminded us about the challenges we are facing related to the issue of peace and violent extremism and the role of young people to help all of us face those issues. So I add my voice to yours to also thank the government of Japan for accompanying IGBA since 2017 in this fight against violent extremism. So thank you very much again, Imiko, for this very important remark. Now I am going to hand over the floor to Mrs. Maria Lusa Uribe, Executive Director of Arigato International. Mrs. Maria.
Yes, Salut, thank you so much. It's a pleasure for me to be today with you, accompanying you in this Pan-African experience sharing. I want to join also all of you in sending the gratitude to the government of Japan for the support to this program. And particularly, I want to express my gratitude to UNESCO International Institute for Capacity Building in Africa for the trust, the collaboration, and the very enriching partnership that we have built during these last 5 years. Your Excellencies, colleagues, and friends, I think the work that we have been doing together has been not only enriching, but very significant, critical for transforming education today. We know that today when we education and there is momentum that has been created to ensure that education not only learners to build the skills and knowledge, but also values and attitudes that can empower them to transform communities. Today, when we think of education, and I think the pandemic, as Dr. Yokoseki was saying, has shown the underlying conditions in our societies that need to be transformed. And education is such a powerful tool that can help empower children and people form communities. The COVID-19 pandemic has also shown the interdependence, as Dr. Yokoseki said, but also I think has shown us that education needs to be embedded more communities. The role of families, the role of faith communities, the role of the society needs to be closely related to our education systems to respond more promptly and more meaningfully to the needs in our societies. We know that children and young people during the pandemic were also in a way victims conditions of the COVID-19 pandemic in many ways. One, of course, physically, but also in terms of the spaces that were reduced and shrank for them to participate and for making their voices heard. We know of the isolation and the mental health and psychosocial challenges that they faced. And so when we think of education, we think of an education that can help addressing these issues, not just the knowledge, the skills, but also that help connecting the mind and the heart and action, an education that places children and young people at the core of learning, that empowers them to learn across differences, across gender, socioeconomic, ethnicity, religion, and all kinds of differences that help them strengthen their agency and their capacities. I want to thank all the collaborators in this project. Of course, UNESCO, ICBA, Dr. Yokusek in particularly, also the leadership of Dr. Jerusalem, also all the UNESCO offices, the ministries of education, the African Union Youth for Peace program, for making this program meaningful. I'm very much looking forward to learning from these experiences, to hearing from the many insights that you are providing us. When I hear my colleagues speaking about this program with a lot of shining eyes and excitement about all the learnings and the great and rich experiences that we have gained, I hear, among many others, how teachers have been transformed. I hear how this has helped addressing maybe policies, programmatic aspects, looking at education in a more sustainable ways. I hear also young people transformed with the experiences, more empowered to take a better leadership role in their communities. So I think what we have been doing together is not just meaningful, it's what we need today to transform education. It's what is clearly missing. And I would say the missing piece in the puzzle on how we see education today. Transformative pedagogies for addressing issues of extremism and violence in our societies are critical. The children and people at the center empowers them, it gives them space, but also allow them to think of their interconnectedness with one another. This ethical demand that we have, that we understand that we hold in our hands the lives of each other, and that we do has an impact in others, on our societies. And I think that's the role of education. So I want to thank all of you for this opportunity. I'm very excited to listen and learn more about the experiences today, to collect these learnings, but also to continue working together. This is a much needed work, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity of being part of this initiative. On behalf of Arigato International, many thanks for the collaboration and for the great learning experiences that we have had. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria, for this speech that goes into the mind and into the heart. In my turn, I would like to, on behalf of ICBA, thank you and your team at Arigato International for accompanying ICBA over these 5 past years to address the challenges of peace building and prevention of violent extremism. Thank you for emphasizing on the role of all education communities who should overcome their differences and tackle together, join force to tackle those challenges. Thank you very much. Of course, indeed, we are doing the right thing, and participants agree. They have already started commenting in the chat. So thank you very much again, Miria. So now I'm going to give the floor to Dora Kitala, from the Ministry of Education of Kenya. Ms. Dora?
Yes, I am here.
Yes, please, Ms. Dora, you're welcome and you have the floor.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear and see you very well.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'd just like to start by really appreciating the organizers of this meeting, UNESCO ICBA. Thank you so much, Madam Yumiko and Maria, Marigato, Victoria, Jerusalem, and the whole team that has been working in the background to ensure that this is a success. I'm very glad to be representing the Ministry of Education Kenya, in particular the Directorate of Policy Partnerships and East African Community Affairs. We as Kenyans are beneficiaries of the UNESCO ICBA program because we benefited by training our teachers in the program. 2017, 2018, I want to believe. Mary Kangede will probably correct me if I'm wrong. And I'm very, very glad that we've already seen a lot of transformation as far as that is concerned. I just want to begin by saying that, in the recent years, we've had issues of peace building actually being highlighted. It has become a global concern, brought about, of course, by the escalation of internal conflicts. We also have suffered in a number of areas, civil war, and more troubling forms of conflict in the form of violent extremism. Kenya has suffered that, and I believe a few other countries represented here today. And we are saying that conflict, whatever nature of conflict it is, it produces social, emotional, and even mental devastation on individuals, and more in particular on communities and our learners, because they suffer when their infrastructures are destroyed, the schools, they're displaced and they have to stay at home. And we know what happens when learners stay at home. They become victims of, all sorts of manner of things, drug abuse, girls go into early marriages and all that. So it is very important that we are holding this meeting today. And of course, in addition, we've seen a number of refugees and internally displaced people in need of shelter and protection as a result of this, and in need of support. And there's an increasingly alarming, number of influx of refugees in and out of countries. Kenya, of course, we host, I guess, the biggest number. And so what are we saying? In that social collapse, political instability, and endemic poverty are often contributors to, as well as consequences of conflict and fragility. And we are saying that our SDG 4, Target 7, which actually guides us in peace education, states that we need to ensure that all learners acquire skills needed to promote sustainable development, human rights, gender equality, and promotion of a culture of peace and global citizenship, and of course, nonviolence. And when we come to Africa, when we contextualize it, what do we want as Africa 2063? We are talking about an Africa that is, stable and peaceful. And it calls for education that addresses the cognitive, social, emotional, basically we're talking about the whole being, including behavioral dimensions, bringing back values that are really, really needed when it comes to elements of, change in our countries. And so education can and must be used as a tool for peace building, and the youth can be key agents of peace building, especially those who've already experienced conflict, firsthand. When it comes to Africa, we are talking about 65% of the population, in the African continent is actually made up of youth. And so it is becoming increasingly important that rather than just seeing youth, young people as agents of conflict and destruction, they must be seen as agents of peace. People who get into intercultural and interreligious dialogues, and people who advocate for a social cohesion in their communities. And so enhancing structures that promote the participation of youth in peace building will actively actually contribute to their engagement and decision-making, and decisions and activities that affect their well-being. And this was said by a youth organizer from Cameroon. And so to just summarize, we're saying that building resilience in education systems is important for individuals, for schools and communities, in order to develop the capacities necessary to maintain safe, relevant, equitable education opportunities and learning outcomes for all learners, and especially in times of crisis. And we're saying that the educational systems are expected to make a significant contribution to not only preventing violence, but rebuilding a shattered society. And so schools and educational systems are very resilient, actually. Disruption caused by conflict offers opportunities and challenges for social reconstruction. So our schools must be zones of peace. They must be safe places where learners can find refuge in times of a crisis and also freely express themselves. Young people have aspirations, they have dreams, they have fears, and they have challenges. And so our youth can be empowered to be peace builders. And this can be achieved by equipping them with, values, skills, knowledge, attitudes in conflict prevention and management. And also they'll learn, the safe use of cyberspaces, countering violent extremism, preventing drug abuse and gender violence. And so as we talk about transformative pedagogy for peace, resilience building, and preventing violent extremism through education, this actually calls for interventions that target formal, non-formal, and informal education. Our youth are no longer contented with being on the receiving end. They are not agents who receive. They must be active participants in policies and interventions that target them. And so additionally, including young people in peace building processes will facilitate peace in the society. As the young people, they have energies that need to be redirected in the implementation of constructive peace projects. So in Kenya, we've actually seen our youth participating in peace convoys, creation of awareness on conflict prevention, and particularly during this time of campaigns, you're all aware that we just concluded our national elections. And so they have participated, and we've achieved this through the money clubs or peace clubs, where our learners are trained in implementation of peace initiatives in, out of class, and in their communities. And it's been a very great success seeing young people participating. So as I conclude, I just want to say that peace building efforts should not only be about urging young people not to engage in violence, they must also be involved in social change, in peace building and conflict resolution. Young people must be actively engaged in what we are doing. They must be empowered, even how to transit from school to the workplace, and to come up with projects that will help in their own livelihoods. So I want to believe that in this workshop, we shall, this workshop shall provide an opportunity for all of us to hear from some of our youth, what they've been doing, the successes, their challenges, and where they need us to come in as ministries of education, as UN bodies, as social communities, SBOs, faith-based organizations, civil societies. How can we come in to empower our youth, especially in peace building and prevention of violent extremism? So I am looking forward to our wonderful, wonderful time. I hope I'll be able to stay on for the next 3 days and just be part of this wonderful experience sharing forum. So thank you so much, and thank you for welcoming us to be part of this.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Dora. We are really honored to have you as the representative of the Ministry of Education of Kenya. Of course, indeed, Kenya has been with us, has been working with IGBA since the beginning of the project in 2017. And you've been represented by very valuable colleagues. Kenya has been conducting, as I said, amazing activities and made very huge achievements in terms of peace building. So congratulations for that, and please keep up that good work. And again, congratulations for the election. I have no doubt that all other countries find themselves in your very brilliant address you have given with a great passion. Thank you very much again, Mrs. Dora. Now, I'm going to give the floor to Dr. Rooks Ako. Dr. Rooks Ako is the Senior Analyst at the Department of Political Affairs, Peace and Security at the African Union Commission of AU's for Peace Africa program. So, Dr. Rooks, I hope you are with us.
Yes, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yes, I can see you partly. It is coming. Yes, now we can see you. Very well. Please go ahead.
Sorry, I'm trying to run from here to another meeting, so it might be a bit noisy, but hopefully you can hear me. No, let me stand on existing protocol and say, again, thank you to the government of Japan for being behind this project, which has been really, really productive, and it's been very rewarding. In my role as the coordinator of the Youth for Peace Africa program, I have seen how this endeavor has sparked life into young people, how it's recognized young people working in their spaces and brought them to help shape this process that also will feed into educating their contemporaries in different spheres. Let me say to begin with that we're really proud of the collaboration, and it's really important to us that young people, young Africans particularly, should be recognized not because of their demographic strength, as is usually touted, but they should be recognized more for the lived experiences that they have and they share. And I think this is one thing that has really sparked life into this process. And I was smiling when the point was made that the process, this transformative process, what it entails. And for me, it's how you bring the lived and shared experiences of young people, not only to address contemporary societal problems, but also to resolve them. And I think this is one of the really, really big things that we need to recognize and applaud young Africans for. Indeed, this is not to say that, the demographic quantum is not important, but I think we should focus perhaps a little less on that and begin to focus more on the actual contributions that they make in whatever quantities they are represented. And I think for this process, when we brought them together to sort of share the experiences, to let us understand how issues of preventing and countering violence extremism was understood by them, how they understood the challenges of young people being, if you like, taken into that fold, when they spoke about how they felt they could be part of resolving the issues and the crises. I think these are things that we can't take for granted. But also, this is to also highlight the fact that there are also a large number of young people out there who are not as knowledgeable in these issues as those that took part in the process. And I think this is where the experience sharing from their cohort is particularly important. And I think this is where the process, the pedagogic process was really interesting and beneficial for me as an individual and the Youth for Peace Africa program. One of the priorities under the Continental Framework on Youth, Peace and Security is participation. And for participation to be meaningful, we all know that we must have three basic things. One, the knowledge; two, the skills; three, the experience. And I think through this process of transformative pedagogy, what we're doing is bringing people's lived experiences into knowledge creation, knowledge sharing, and at the same time, highlighting how these educational knowledge is not mainly to be internalized, but should be, in a sense, contributing to actualizing peace on the continent. And I think this I find really, really rewarding. I don't want to take so much time because I see that we're not doing too well, but I would like to highlight something in particular. As we went through this process and also going to institutions of learning, particularly to disseminate this, a thought came to my mind that one of the cross-cutting themes on under the Continental Framework on Youth, Peace and Security is this whole notion of inclusivity. And I think I'll be speaking with colleagues both at Arigato and UNESCO IGBA to begin to think about how we can begin to reach young people that are not necessarily in formal, who don't have access to formal educational structures. And by this, I refer to young people who are IDPs, those that are refugees, even those with disabilities that are not, if you like, mainstreamed into formal educational structures. In the last 2 weeks or so, I have organized events where we ensured that these categories were represented, and their perspectives, honestly, brought light to the fact that they have different, or maybe not different, but peculiar needs that we also need to begin to mainstream into conversations, solutions, and even the way we create and disseminate knowledge products. So this is one thing that I would like to flag, and I hope that we'll be able to have follow-on conversations. But like speakers before me, I'm really excited that we're at this stage where we're sharing experiences to hear from young people on how the process and the products have worked for them. And I think this can only help us to continue to ensure that we integrate them, we involve them meaningfully, and we continue to respond to the needs as it comes from them. With these few words, I'm also looking forward to an exciting 2 or 3 days in and out of meetings, but I will ensure that I take time to attend a few of these sessions personally and share, of course, experiences from myself, both in the questions and commentary sections. I thank you all for listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rooks, and thank you for taking your valuable time to attend this meeting. And thank you for the very brilliant and passionate address. Thank you very much to you and to your team at the AUC for always having accompanied IGBA in this journey for peace building and prevention of violent extremism through the AU Youth for Peace Africa program. I think your call is well heard. Your call about inclusivity is well heard, and it will not be very difficult to really integrate it as one of IGBA's principles is to leave no one behind. So your call is really heard, and we can follow up on that and have further discussion. Now, let me give the floor to Her Excellency, Ambassador Takato Ito, the Embassy of Japan in Ethiopia. So Her Excellency, you have the floor.
Hello, Dr. Yokozaki Yumiko, the Director of UNESCO IGBA, and Mrs. Maria Lucia Uribe, the Executive Director of Arigato International, Ms. Dora Kitala, Ministry of Education of Kenya, Dr. Rooks Akko, Senior Analyst at the Department of Political Affairs, Peace and Security, and African Union Commission, as well as the AU Youth for Peace Africa Program, Ms. Victoria Ibiwoye, founder of One Africa Child, distinguished guests, and the dear friends of peace. On behalf of the government of Japan, I'm pleased to participate in this opening ceremony for the 3-day experience sharing meeting entitled Transformative Pedagogy for Peace, Resilience Building, and Preventing Violent Extremism through Education and Youth Empowerment in Africa, organized by the UNESCO IGBA in collaboration with Arigato International. Since 2017, the government of Japan has been supporting IGBA's peace and resilience building efforts through the policies on teacher development and teacher training, with an understanding that education has the power to transform people's minds and attitude. Thus, is an essential and effective tool to proactively prevent social conflicts. Over the past 5 years, the number of African countries that government of Japan supported through the work of UNESCO IGBA expanded to over 20. It is encouraging and inspirational to witness the growth of the Circle of Peace and Resilience Building initiatives across Africa, and especially those emerging from youth and young teachers. In the beginning of 2021, Japan reached an agreement with UNESCO IGBA to implement the project entitled The Prevention of Extremism and its Resurgence Amid the COVID-19 Pandemic through Education in Africa, aligned with the spirit of TICAD 7 and NAPSA, meaning New Approach for Peace and Stability in Africa. This $1 million project intends to expand the reach of IGBA's activities to the Southern African region and to develop teaching materials through close collaboration with ministries of education, universities, and teacher training institutions across Africa in order to support the integration of peace education into current tertiary education, as well as teacher education curricula and programs. This online experience sharing meeting, which starts today, is based on the lessons learned from the UNESCO IGBA's past engagement with a number of countries in mainstreaming the approach and philosophy of peace education, with a particular focus on the integration of transformative pedagogy. The first day is dedicated to hearing from youth representatives from different parts of Africa about their experiences in internalizing the transformative approach in their peace-building initiatives. It is a great opportunity for the government of Japan as well to be able to hear how our support has contributed to Africa's peace-building efforts in respective countries, how creative initiatives have grown among the youth and educational practitioners, and what comes next in order to further foster the circle of peace building to stabilize the continent and empower the incoming generations. The government of Japan believes that in order to materialize the SDGs concept of leave no one behind, it is critical to create a society that is sustainable, inclusive, and that embraces diversity. That being said, we support the idea of the very essence of this three-day session, which is dialogue, and in particular, intergenerational dialogue. I do hope this dialogue will be useful for each participant from 18 African countries in their effort to further develop and promote peace education and conflict prevention in each respective country. Japan's development cooperation in peace and prosperity of the world has always been through cooperation for non-military purposes, which we believe is one of the most suitable modalities for international contribution. Japan acknowledges that the African continent still has countries that are faced with conflicts or are burdened with an accumulation of serious development challenges, including here in Ethiopia. Based on the concept of human security, Japan places importance on taking action to protect individuals and strengthen their capabilities in order to protect the life and dignity of individual human beings. With this in mind, the government of Japan continues to actively engage in assistance for peace building with a view to establishing and consolidating peace and stability and solving serious development challenges in the region. Importantly, education is a foundation of all those necessary interventions, and therefore, we see the importance of investing in education. In other words, in people's potential. In this point, we share the view with ICBA in recognizing the role of education as actors of peace and wish to support their important and critical efforts. Since 1993, Japan has taken its initiative to be a key partner for African development, particularly through Tokyo International Conference on African Development, or TICAD. On 27th and 28th of this month, TICAD 8 will be held in Tunisia. And the issue of peace and stability is one of the three important pillars of the leaders' discussion, along with economic issues and social issues. It is our ardent hope that TICAD 8 will further strengthen the relationship between Africa and Japan, including the area of peace and stability. In closing, let me sincerely commend the continuous hard work of the UNESCO ICBA team under the excellent leadership of its director, Dr. Yokozaki Yumiko, working in close cooperation with other related UN agencies. I hope that this online experience sharing will have fruitful outcomes and contribute to generating a culture of peace and facilitating a long-lasting peace in Africa, as well as further deepening the friendship between the prominent youth, educational practitioners, UN agencies, and partners from 18 African countries participating in this program. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Excellency, Ambassador Takako Ito, Ambassador of Japan in Ethiopia, for this very valuable remark. Thank you once again to you and the government of Japan for supporting ICBA since 2017 in this in addressing these issues related to peace education and prevention of violent extremism. I would like to remind all participants that Japan has also assisted ICBA in organizing study tour in Japan in 2017, 2018, and 2019 to enable participants of those study tours to have a life experience of what Japan has endeavored in the field of making peace a culture, the sustainable culture of peace in Japan. So thank you very much again. And on behalf of the countries, I really express our gratitude. So now has come the time to take a group picture. I am kindly requesting everybody to turn on their cameras so that we can take the group picture. Eleonora, who is leading us on that?
Yes, me and Xavier will take the group photos. We have 4 pages of participants, so please have a little bit of patience as we take the screenshot of all 4. And thank you for turning on your cameras. So.
Hi, I'm being restricted from turning on my camera, please.
Same for me.
Same for me. Amel from Tunisia.
So Henok, could you help on those issues? Yes.
Henok can open all the cameras or restrictions.
Yeah, mine is functional now.
Okay.
Yeah. My camera is functional now. Hello, everybody.
Yes, all restrictions have been lifted. So, okay. Yeah. So thank you everyone. The picture has been taken. Thank you very much.
Okay. You're welcome. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
Eleonora, we can proceed.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much. So now I have the pleasure to invite Dr. Victoria Ibuwoye, founder of One Child Africa, to give us the keynote speech.
Thank you very much, Salu. I'm very delighted to be here today, and I just want to echo the speakers who have gone before me in saying thank you to ICBA for putting together this gathering. When I think of the word peace and what that means for today's 1.8 billion young people, I am reminded of the current events and realities in our world today. Young people across the world are dealing with peculiar complexities for our generation, from the learning crisis to health pandemics and emerging pandemic threats, from climate anxiety to mental health disorder to unemployment. And according to the World Economic Forum, around 621 million young people between the ages of 15 and 24 are not in education, employment, or training. It is said that youth unemployment is mostly higher than the overall working population. And how do we say to today's young generation to go out there and to change the world when they are not empowered with the tools and climate to succeed? As a Nigerian and Africa, I always ponder on the question on how can we harness Africa's untapped potential to spark ideas and solutions that address our own unique challenges. And this curiosity led me in establishing One African Child Foundation as a college student in 2013. Moving on, One African Child has worked in different underserved communities across Nigeria, including in Kenya, to strengthen the potential of young people to lead and drive change through global citizenship and peace education programs. Today, also as a beneficiary of UNESCO ICBA's capacity building programs and grant support, I would like to share a couple of things that I have learned over the years from our engagement on the ground. The first thing is intentionality. Young people, not only do they have a voice, today's generation of young people, particularly young African leaders, are driven by the power of intentionality. I've seen many young leaders who have the desire and the ability to make decisions and drive change on issues that affect their life. For me, it was making sure that education will properly prepare children to become problem solvers and active global citizens. However, I am not alone in this journey, and today we will hear from other examples of young people who are modeling the way and are truly transforming education for a peaceful and sustainable world. I also want to speak to contextualization. I think it's super important that when we talk about issues happening across Africa, that we are not generalizing, as issues are specific from countries to countries, and sharing experiences on issues, particularly on peace and resilience building, can be difficult for young people. At first, it may seem quite very remote to young people, but even as we experience conflict on a daily basis, it is challenging to explain to a group of people who were born into conflict and who have lived in a system that normalizes violence on why they should care. They may think that, how does this relate to me, or why should I care? But by making connections to students' own lives and their current lived realities, we can unearth the inherent connections between what happens locally and what happens globally. And when we build these bridges and connections for young people, issues of peace and resilience building take on a new significance and a greater resonance. In March of 2021, One African Child organized the Peace for Change workshop on youth peace and resilience building, tagged Paving the Way for Youth-Led Change. It was a moment for young people in Nigeria and also in Kenya to come together to share experiences and knowledge that has been acquired on fostering peaceful and promoting resilience in their community, in the nation and in the world at large. And today we hear examples of similar workshops that have taken place in Zimbabwe, in Kenya, and Tunisia, and other places. It is important to acknowledge the support of UNESCO ICBA, Arigato International, the government of Japan, and many other partners without which this would not have been possible. I would personally like to thank you in amplifying youth voices and agency. Today, more than ever, we see that investment in youth agency is also an investment in economic growth and in social change. We all know the power of peace education, but I would also like to state a few examples, such as the power to have multiple perspectives. It is important to have conversation on difficult topics, as this allows us to experience and to learn from diverse perspectives. And so it's so important that young people can develop the capacity to listen to one another and to truly hear what each other has to say. I feel like a lot of conflicts in our world today can be resolved if only we can pause to listen. Also, the power of peace education to transfer dialogue skills. This is one of the most important leadership skills of our time, and it's important to empower young people of today to engage in dialogue and to develop active listening skills. Our world demands more than ever leaders who can approach difficult situations with compromise. I also want to speak to the power of critical thinking. Today's changing world needs critical thinkers, and young people must be given a variety of opportunities to truly engage in lessons, to problem solve, and to interact with their peers. And I'm sure as we will hear today, we would hear examples of different events and workshops that have taken place in the last few months and years on how, UNESCO ICBA's grants and resources has been able to facilitate this. I think it's super important to also recognize the power of peace education to leave young people feeling empowered. Difficult topics like conflicts, especially those that involve human suffering, can be very overwhelming. And we've had or we hear many of these examples, particularly on the African continent. Young people watch the news and they hear of stories, outbreak in the Middle East or refugee crisis in Africa, and they receive a wealth of information that leave them feeling a sense of despair. And sometimes the situation is much more bigger than them, and nothing can be, they do feel that nothing can be done to ameliorates the problem. The peace building program by ICBA with support of Arigato International has shown that as young people, we can really take action to rewrite the narrative. It has indeed shifted the landscape of looking at young people as the beneficiaries to looking at young people as partners and active agents of change. And so today I would like to urge every partner and stakeholder in the room, including young people, to continue to work together to support young people in feeling a sense of empowerment and in knowing that they too can take action as individuals or as a community and that they can indeed make a difference. Finally, along the sidelines of the Transforming Education Summit, we cannot transform education without integrating peace education and global citizenship across formal and informal education settings. We must invest also in empowering teachers with the skills and agency to integrate social emotional learning to prepare learners for life. Above all, we must continue to encourage multi-stakeholder collaboration, including political commitment of leaders to turn policies into action. And if I can leave you all with a message today, it is that may we never get tired in planting the seeds of peace. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so very much, Victoria, for this brilliant keynote speech as usual. Thank you for always being an inspiration for young people and setting the examples. Of course, I can witness that youngsters from many African countries have benefited from the great work done by One Africa Child under your leadership. So keep up that great work. Your call to young people is heard, and this is for the transformation of education, and the seed is sown and we expecting fruit from that big tree. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Victoria, once again. Now has come the time for the breakout session. Okay.
Sal, before
the Mentimeter. Xavier, is that so?
Yes, hello again, everyone.
Yes,
so as you can see,
yes.
with the screen, thank you, Sal. With the screen that you can see in front of you, if I could ask everyone to either use your phones or your computer and to go to www.menti.com and use the code so 54691351, and then kindly answer the question in front of you. So when you think of transformative approaches for peace, what comes to your mind? So once again, when you think of transformative approaches for peace, what comes to your mind? Thank you so much, everyone. We'll spend the next couple of minutes doing this. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your answers and giving your input towards this question. And as you can see from the Mentimeter, there are several ideas that come through. And we will take the opportunity for the next 3 days to explore everything that you've said within these couple of questions. Mena, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Xavier. Now you have the floor, Mena, for the roundtable conversation.
Thank you so much, Savir and Sadu, for this wonderful Mentimeter. May I request Savir kindly to reshare the screen from his own end regarding the Mentimeter question results? That would be great. And while doing so, I will introduce myself. With a great honor and pleasure, I'll be facilitating this sharing session aims to build the understanding of how youthful at continental levels are contributing to the different transformative pedagogy approaches through different initiatives, and how, despite all these changes we have mentioned, they have been able to move forward with the 2063, the continental agenda. I can see some great results from here and some very motivating words to warm up this session and to have a great start. I can see that people are addressing the transformative approaches through resilience, engagement, innovation, empathy, dynamism, inclusive, together, and courage. I think from here we can start our session because, like our first speakers have inspired us, today's session is building on the experiences and sharing knowledge of the youth around the continental or around the continent. I think one of the main themes for today's session is also to address how we can culture peace and how, despite intergenerational challenges, the intergenerational dialogues that has been provided with the generous funding from the government of Japan and in cooperation with the UNESCO ICBA have helped youth across the continent to address transformative pedagogy and also have helped them to maintain and sustain their vital loads towards empowering other youth peers who doesn't have access to different knowledge and resources. I think from here we can start our session. And before we start, I have seen some great interactions within the dialogues and the chat books. So I would like to request all the participants to keep interacting and raising their comments, sharing the reactions and feedback as long as we move forward with our speakers and presentations. Thank you, Savir. You may end the presentation from your end. And I would like also to reflect that these sessions will be mainly building sessions, and from today's sessions results and keynotes that we will take from our speakers, we will be able to move forward within today, tomorrow, and the day after with our webinar. May I recall our first speaker, Petro Emakliu. He is from Southeast Nigeria. With a great honor and pleasure, I call Petro my friend. We had the pleasure to meet last year through one of the initiatives and trainings that has been organized by the UNESCO ICBA. He is a wonderful, thoughtful leader in peace building, and he works as the coordinator of Activating Positive Peace in Nigeria program, and he is also the chairman of Great Child Foundation. Petro is a winner of several awards, including the Rotary Platinum Presidential Citation Award for Outstanding Leadership and Rotary International Peace Award. He has great contributions inside Nigeria in empowering other youth in conflict prevention, transformation, and countering violent extremism. Petro, I will hand over to you the floor now. Please start whenever you are ready.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but unfortunately we lost the sharing screen.
Okay, sorry about that. Please, is it back up?
Yeah, it is coming back. Now we can see it.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It's been a great day and a great session. I would like to re-echo the words of Victoria, who says that we should never get tired of planting the seeds of peace. And I also want to thank everyone who has spoken earlier. They've actually made the preliminaries of our conversation very easy, and we can progress accordingly. Late June, I was here to give an account of how we have implemented the transformative pedagogy back here in Nigeria. And I've prepared my slide in a way that would refresh our memory on that conversation. And I would like to dwell more on the sustainability objectives of our initiative. So like Dr. Ako rightly pointed out about inclusivity, our training had that in mind. And the objective was why we...
Can you make it?
Hello? Sorry, man, is there a concern?
We can hear you. We can hear you very well.
Presentation mode, please. Thank you.
Can you see my screen?
Yes. Yeah, we can see it, but probably if you can enter the full screen mode, if you can do so, please. You can just press Control L.
Is it better now or still the same?
No, it's still the same, but I think it's fine. Please move forward.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm actually using the browser, not the app. I couldn't do much with the app. Okay, so like I was saying, Dr. Ako's reservations or observations was part of what we put in mind when we structured our training to be a training of trainer method. You know, so what we actually achieved a couple of months back was to train young adults, Nigerians in the field on the transformative pedagogy approach. And our 2 weeks training ended with some very, very marvelous results. And I can tell you that they've been doing magnificent things across the country. And also, like I hinted earlier, the whole objective is for sustainability. All these are projects that the trainees have gone ahead to implement. And the unique thing about training the trainers is that way you don't face just one sector, like the educational sector or the community sector or the civil society sector. But when we train this trainer, these are individuals that cut across all spheres of life, all sectors, all cadre of academic environment. So they went ahead to implement projects in secondary schools, in primary schools, in tertiary institutions, in grassroots communities, in religious institutions, amazing projects, even in correctional centers, talking about the prison environment and what have you. But for want of time, I want to dwell more on our sustainability intentions. Now, our sustainability plan is about recruitment, incentivizing them by motivating them and engaging them. Now, pretty quickly, I want to talk about the Rotary Nigeria Peace Building and Conflict Prevention Committee. Rotary International, as we may know, is an international organization of where like minds come together, put resources together, and address societal needs, societal concerns. And then in Nigeria, we have increased issues triggered by both COVID, triggered by the realities of the day, triggered by politics, triggered by the lists of triggers that are really inexhaustible. So Rotarians have come together to really think of putting together a more sustainable structure, a progressive structure that will look at these issues and put up together initiatives that will address them to dismantle these things. And this structure is what we rightly call the Rotary Nigeria National Peace Building and Conflict Prevention Committee. We have state coordinators across every state of Nigeria. We have volunteers across over 1,000 volunteers across the states of Nigeria with singular objective of implementing positive social change solutions to dismantle ingredients or push and pull factors of violent extremism, of all manner of societal disadvantages. So this is the structure where we've accommodated the trainees that we have built their capacity with the transformative pedagogy system. And going further forward, our partners in one of the training, IEP, have also gone further to certify these trainers as IEP ambassadors. Now, IEP ambassadorship, it's a very rigorous process which entails 3 cadre of engagement. You get trained like they participated with UNESCO ICBA in the training for the training of trainers, and then you go ahead and implement a community project. So the beneficiaries of the UNESCO ICBA training have gone ahead to implement this project, the pictures of which I glanced through a while ago, and over 80 of them have been further certified as IEP ambassadors. This is one of the methods we intend to use to incentivize them. Going back quickly to the recruitment process, we've decided to make the UNESCO Transformative Pedagogy Training an annual event. So every February, we shall repeat the training process, a 2-week training of trainer process, identify young peace builders, train them in transformative pedagogy, in positive peace framework, to make them readily available to grasp the system and peace building processes of Rotary Nigeria Peace Commission. Now, another incentive to motivate these individuals is the annual Rotary Peace Fellowship Program. Now, with them working with us, that gives them an avenue to practicalize peace building beyond the black and white paper. That gives them some field experience, which is one of the prerequisites and advantages of Rotary Peace Fellowship Program. So this is also an incentive which we've let them know that working with us will help you gather these experiences, to also help you to gain admission on scholarships for master's program, for certificate professional programs, etc. And I'm happy to announce to you that amongst the training of trainers, about 15 of them, you're actually staring in your screen, about possible 15 of them will gain the fellowship program of Rotary for this year. They've passed through 2 stages already, and within the month, they will be going across for the 3rd stage. Now, I want to talk about engagement. Currently, we just flagged off our national grassroots peace sensitization, voter education, and human rights awareness campaign. Let me quickly say congratulations to Kenya on a successful election. Nigeria's general election is by the corner. We're actually in the political election period, and lots of activities are coming up. So we just flagged off an initiative that will require us to conduct grassroots training and sensitization across the 36 states and Federal Capital Territory of Nigeria. And this training of trainers that participated in the February program has been integrated into these structures and are being engaged for this program alongside other Rotarians. So our sustainability plan is to continue the recruitment process, the identification process, continue the engagement process, which is coming up with community programs for them to get involved in, and continue to motivate them through the IEP Ambassadorial Program and the Rotary Fellowship Program. And then we just say that our achievements and prospects are simply in our peace building mechanism, because engaging the youths, integrating them, mainstreaming them in peace building requires a progressive platform that will give them the opportunity to innovate, to participate, and implement. Thank you very much. I hope we didn't have much technical difficulties. Thank you, Mena.
Thank you so much, Petro, for this great start of the session. I think you have shared so many wonderful news. And I think, like you said, we are planting the seeds of peace through the TOT program that you have been implementing as a part of the Rotary community inside Nigeria. What I like about is the idea of sustainability of the learning experience, that you not only stopped at delivering activities or trainings for other youth, but you have also kept the idea of continuing the learning as a virtuous cycle by also trying to support youth in implementing and adopting their own initiatives as well. I would like also to congratulate the 80 certified ambassadors for peace, and also wish the best of luck for the 15 trainers who are expecting a fellowship program from the Rotary Scholarship. I think we have received a comment from one of our guests within the chat book saying that peace is a harmonious existence and interhuman positivity. I like this idea very much, and I think we might today address it from a continental and regional mindset. And I think we shall move from actually West Africa to the South Africa region. And our next speaker is a very good friend, and I have collaborated with her as a part of the Youth Peace and Security network for the African Union. So our next speaker is Michelle Morenda. Michelle is a young African woman from Zimbabwe. She is one of the members of the steering committee of the African Women Leaders Network, known for short as the AWLN. Michelle is also has served as a FemWise Africa Deputy Focal Point for the country and helped in localizing the network in her country. She is a member of the African Union Political Affairs, Peace and Security Department, known for short as AUPAPS, and she is currently carrying out a UNESCO IGBA project in Zimbabwe's institutions of higher learning, where she is trying to bring about the transformative pedagogy and capacitating other youth leaders in Zimbabwe in institutionalizing their peace building, prevention initiatives, and protection of violence. May I recall Michelle to start whenever she's ready.
Hi, Mena. Good afternoon, everyone. Allow me to stand on already established protocols. It's an honor to be a part of this meeting and a part of the UNESCO IGBA program. I think much has already been said, the foundation has been set, and I will not take much time in talking about things that have already been alluded to. Speaking to my presentation, I will focus much on the work that we have been doing in Zimbabwe in an effort to localize the UNESCO IGBA project in Zimbabwe. After receiving training last year, 3 of youth members of the UNESCO IGBA from Zimbabwe, Salem Muyambi, Shingirai Nago, and myself, developed a project together with the assistance of the senior members of this project who received training from 2018, who are also Zimbabwean. So the project we are working on is a capacity building training for youth leaders in Zimbabwean institutions of higher learning on peace building and the prevention of violence. And the objective of the training is the operationalization of the UNESCO IGBA program in Zimbabwe as a priority. And this is in order to strengthen the capacity of youth leaders in Zimbabwean state universities, private universities, as well as technical colleges to be able to contribute to peace building, to empower them for the prevention of violence, as well as to promote a culture of peace, mutual understanding, and respect among peoples. Why specifically the focus on institutions of higher learning? First of all, it was strategic, because if we are talking about transformative pedagogy, then as long as we are not engaging with institutions of learning, it will likely remain as activism or ideas that are in the streets, but not necessarily adopted in the institutions. So we deliberately came up with this project with the endeavor of institutionalizing transformative pedagogy within the institutions of higher learning. And like what Petro was talking about, it will also ensure a sustainability aspect which goes on for years and years. And specifically, some of the objectives within this project is to enhance the critical reflections on the role of young people in educational institutions in building peace and prevention of violence through education. And it will also introduce transformative pedagogy to strengthen critical understanding, skills, as well as collaborative actions among youth and educational institutions, fostering peace building. And this will obviously enhance youth and educational institutional capacities to develop educational programs, which promotes dialogue as well as mutual understanding and respect within communities. And this will also lead to the development of recommendations as well as good practices on transformative pedagogy for peace building. And we also endeavor to articulate transformative pedagogical approaches which strengthen critical understanding, not only among youth leaders, but among educational institutions and the role that education plays in bringing peace to our country, as well as informing policy concerning peace from an educational background and perspective. And in the end, we endeavor to create a Zimbabwe network of dedicated cadres who advance transformative pedagogy for peace building across the country. Our advantage is that we are not only young people in this endeavor, but we have senior cadres. We call it the senior caucus when we are only youth when in our spaces, who are trained by the UNESCO IGBA program, and they are playing a pivotal role in guiding us and offering us capacity in implementing this, as well as realizing the endeavor that we have. And by the end of the training, young people will be able to identify innovative strategies which will address and transform conflict, not only at the national level, but within our communities, our various provinces. We come from different provinces across the country, using non-violent methods of peace building. And they will also be able to proffer solutions to the existing conflicts at a local level and in different initiatives of eliminating reoccurrence of conflicts. So speaking to this, the interventions that are currently integrating transformative pedagogy in Zimbabwe, we have seen and we are engaging our Ministry of Higher and Tertiary Education, Zimbabwe being an implementing country of the UNESCO IGBA project. And the ministry has been positively responsive to the UNESCO IGBA program, and this is a good ground for transformative pedagogy initiatives to be undertaken in the country. And we are also engaging young people together with the educators, the lecturers, and other actors in institutions of higher learning in the promotion of peace building in Zimbabwe. And since engagement is broad and at different levels, for a start, we are working with lecturers in these institutions who have received training, like I have said, and we have specifically targeted the young leaders, the youth leaders in these institutions as a strategy, because they already have a threshold of leadership which they are in charge of. And when they are capacitated, they will also be able to cascade the knowledge to the people that they lead. And I will end by talking about the experience and the good practice in integrating transformative pedagogy. And so far in implementing this project, we have learned that a top-bottom approach, and this is in relation to the Zimbabwe terrain, a top-bottom approach in implementing effective transformative pedagogy seems to work best in our country. And this also I would recommend to other countries to understand the context and the terrain of the implementing country as the strategy to developing and structuring programs. And there is also need to marry the civic and informal education with the formal education in order for transformative pedagogy initiatives to be formally recognized. And care should also be taken not to make transformative pedagogy seem like activism, because in contexts such as Zimbabwe, activism usually stays on the streets and not on the table. And this would easily rubbish efforts as waves that only pass. And our approach has made engagement with ministries, with the government, and with other strategic stakeholders and any clearing authority very good for the implementation of the project and to ensure lasting efforts. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Michelle. It's always hard to take the floor after you. Wonderful talk. I think I'll try to summarize the main points of your talk because I'm really impressed of how you are trying to bring two different perspectives of formal and non-formal education together, how you are trying to institutionalization of transformative pedagogy approaches by reaching out to public, private, and technical college inside Zimbabwe. And I'm also very impressed by trying to promote culture of peace and build understanding informing policies at different type of levels. And I will use your phrase from the top-bottom approach by engaging multi-stakeholders within the peace process. I think there is a lot of experience or shared experience to learn from Zimbabwe, especially that your experience is related to the policy-making level, which is very unique in accelerating the efforts as well as the steps forward within peace building and conflict prevention. Moving from west to south and now to East Africa, our next speaker is from Kenya, Onse Panda. Onse has received a training with the UNESCO AGBA for Youth Peace Forum in Kenya, and she is a graduate of the African Union Youth for Peace and Young African Leaders initiative known as YALI. She has tremendous efforts in women, peace, and security inside Kenya. And she is also advocate for inclusion and gender mainstreaming. And among her contribution within the Amani Peace Clubs that she will share her good practices about, she has tried also to bring an inclusive and gender mainstreaming lens within peace transformative pedagogy. May I recall Onse to start whenever she is ready.
Sorry, Mena, is this my presentation?
Yes, it is. Can you see it?
Yes.
You can see it. Great.
Thank you very much, Mena. Thank you, UNESCO ICBA. Thank you, Arigato. My name is Eunice Pande from Kenya, one of the youth trainee in peace building and conflict prevention with the prevention of violent extremism. I'm a group of young people who are trained in Kenya with the UNESCO ICBA last year, and we did a project on transformative pedagogy and integrating it in Kenya through peace clubs and youth training in Nairobi and Mombasa. So this is a project that our second in 2 months, May and June. And from this, we took two approach. One was we were targeting at the Amani or peace clubs, which were formed yet before in 2014 by the National Cohesion and Integration Commission in partnership with the Ministry of Education, and to establish peace clubs in schools. The main aim of the Amani Peace Clubs or bucket peace clubs was to promote good relationship, harmony, and peaceful coexistence among students themselves and between schools and the neighboring communities, despite the ethnic, racial, and religious difference. Because in these peace clubs, students are able to come together and discuss. They're able to identify the root causes of conflicts within them. They're able to learn from each other and to discuss ways of peace building in the schools and also among the communities. And now the peace clubs are not only in the schools, are now diversified to the community within the youth, where youths formed peace clubs and are now doing a lot of forums and dialogues in terms of peace building initiatives, and also this include also interreligious dialogues within the youth leaders. And some of the youth clubs that we have are from the Mukuru slums. This is one of the biggest peace clubs in Nairobi, where we have 6 peace clubs with an average of 16 youths. They use the Amani Peace Guide, club guide, which is a guideline in the structure of the peace clubs, which enable them in the discussions and also to integrate what they learn in the communities. We have other peace clubs in Mount Kenya University and also in some of the schools that we trained in the month of May, which is the Moi Forces High School in Mombasa and also in Nairobi. So that's actually the background of the peace clubs, which we have seen to be working well in terms of peace building among the youth in Kenya. And through this, through the training, we had a number of experiences from the peace clubs and also from the youths. Some youths, though, have not heard about the peace clubs, but through the trainings, they were able to, they were happy and were able to mobilize for the peace clubs, since it was an avenue for them to share their experiences and to identify different types of conflicts in their context. Thank you very much. Mina, if you can just proceed to the next slide. So this, I want to focus on the youth awareness on root causes of conflict and peaceful resolutions as one of the outcome of our trainings. Through our trainings, we realized that youth were so excited to be involved in peace talks and discussions in the topic of peace. And in many communities, youth indicated knowing the real issues that caused unrest and violence within their communities. For example, you know, Kenya as a country, we experience different types of conflicts. In the coastal regions, they're religious-based or motivated conflict. When you come to urban centers like Nairobi, you find politically and election-motivated conflict, and also conflict as a result of poverty and drug abuse. When you go to the rural areas now, we find issues like climate change, and conflict over resources. We have also social motivated type of conflict. So the community youths are ready and willing to be involved and have taken part in driving peace building in their communities through different initiatives. And these initiatives include the peace dialogue through the peace clubs. It also includes peace talks, and also intergenerational dialogues. And in both Mukuru, which is in Nairobi, in the informal settlement area, through the clubs, and Tongo, which is in Mombasa, the youth leaders had already received some field trainings in peace building initiatives. And Mene can just continue the slide, please. And also the students, trainees were excited about the engagement. About the peace clubs, we realized that a few students had already formed these peace clubs and they were happily involved. And some, though, had already not heard about them. And this is a major challenge that most of them, when the peace clubs and the peace guides were introduced by a National Cohesion Integration Commission in partnership with the Ministry of Education, there was no more education, and there is need for more cascading of this thing. And the youth are still don't have proper information on the structuring of these peace clubs. That's how we came in now, teaching them on the issues of peace building and also how to structure the peace club. And from that, we saw that the transformative pedagogy which we focus in awaken the students into causes of conflict and the structures of peace in their communities, whereby now the students were able to identify the root causes of conflict. For example, in the high schools in Kenya, there is in the past few years, there's high rate of school burning of school, and also conflict within the school. So they were able to identify some issues, that use of drug abuse, hatred, peer pressure among the teenagers are some of the root causes of conflict, and also they're able to learn on how to mitigate them and on how to transform these and bring conflict resolution within the schools and their communities. So transformative pedagogy enables the generation of new ideas for specific solutions for every group, both in the schools, in the institutions, and also within the community with the youth groups. So while there are many causes of conflict and various solutions for conflict, each region, just as I said before, and population have its own unique ways of effectively solving this conflict, because we have different types of conflict and different causes. Yes, I mean, I can continue. So I think that we'll be able to show you about lessons learned afterward. The main points, that things that we experienced, that youth are now happily involved in peace resolution, and they are willing to be involved in peace building activity. Though cascading this is still difficult, because they still don't have enough information on peace building. That's including capacity and skills, knowledge on peace building. And therefore they need to capacity building more, and also cascade the peace clubs, both in the institutions and also in the communities. Thank you very much. And I hope that as we continue to discuss and as we continue with the communication throughout the webinar until we'll be able to come up with ways to implement some of these peace building activities and domesticate even the youth peace and security agendas to the local level. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Onse. It's always great to see how the involvement of youth in inter-religious dialogue are actually taking place into what's moving forward with increasing acceptance to the transformative pedagogy activities. I will now move the talk to Northern Africa region by calling Ms. Ilham bin Abdsalam, who is representing the Tunisian National Commission today and has been also a trainer within one of the workshops that has been implemented by the UNESCO ICBA on transformative pedagogy. And she is also serving within the Education and Science National Commission of the UNESCO sector inside Tunisia. Ms. Ilham, the floor is yours. Please start whenever you are ready.
Bonjour tout le monde. Donc, je remercie ICBA pour cette invitation. Ma présentation, elle sera en français. Donc, je tiens d'abord à remercier tout le monde. Je tiens à remercier ICBA pour cette réunion très enrichissante. Donc, je vais parler dans cette présentation de notre collaboration, de la collaboration de la Commission nationale tunisienne avec ICBA au sujet de la pédagogie transformationnelle pour la paix, le renforcement de la résilience et la prévention de l'extrémisme violent. Donc, je tiens à préciser que j'étais déjà formatrice dans ce projet et ça a été très enrichissant pour moi, soit sur le plan personnel ou sur le plan professionnel. Donc, si on peut passer à la deuxième, je ne sais pas, très bien. Donc, le plan de ma formation, donc la première partie de ma formation portera sur la formation, un résumé de la formation organisée par ICBA. Cependant, la deuxième partie, elle sera concentrée, c'est la plus grande partie, elle sera focalisée sur l'atelier organisé par l'ATCOM, c'est-à-dire par la Commission nationale tunisienne. Là, très bien. Donc, juste un petit résumé de la formation en ligne que ICBA a organisée et dont on a profité. Donc, le contexte de la formation elle fait partie du projet Paix et renforcement de la résilience et prévention de l'extrémisme violent en Afrique, à travers la formation des enseignants dirigée par l'UNESCO ICBA et soutenue par le gouvernement du Japon. Le public cible était les enseignants arabophones et francophones de l'Algérie, de la Mauritanie, du Maroc et de la Tunisie. Très bien. Donc, plusieurs enseignants tunisiens ont participé à cette formation en ligne. et elle visait à instiller la paix, renforcer la résilience et prévenir contre l'extrémisme violent par le biais de l'éducation. Je tiens à préciser que l'atelier a été animé par des experts et des professionnels qui ont été capables de mettre en pratique la pédagogie transformationnelle grâce à des situations qui pourraient avoir lieu en classe, dans notre vie quotidienne, et des activités amusantes avec lesquelles ils peuvent les sessions. Je tiens d'abord à préciser que grâce à la formation qu'on a eue avec ICBA, on a pu former plusieurs professeurs à avoir une nouvelle pédagogie dans nos classes, une approche novatrice, et c'est ce qu'on a inculqué à nos enseignants dans notre formation. L'espace déjà accordé à la discussion lors de cette formation en ligne a été primordial grâce à des discussions directes avec les animateurs, ou bien des discussions qu'on a eues, nous, les participants entre nous, grâce aux rondes qui ont été spécifiées pour cette tâche. Donc, les pistes de réflexion qu'on a explorées dans cette formation: comprendre le PVE et le rôle de l'éducation, la pédagogie transformationnelle et ses compétences, l'éthique comme objectif de transformation et de promotion de la paix et du renforcement de la résilience dans l'éducation, et exposer des actions dirigées par les apprenants, les responsables et les associations pour transformer leur communauté. Donc, afin de tirer profit, là je passe à l'atelier de formation qu'on a organisé en Tunisie, que la Commission nationale tunisienne a organisé. Donc, afin de tirer profit de cette pédagogie novatrice et d'en concrétiser les objectifs, la Commission nationale tunisienne pour l'éducation, la science et la culture, en partenariat avec ICBA, a organisé un atelier de formation sur la pédagogie transformationnelle pour la paix, le renforcement de la résilience et la prévention de l'extrémisme violent. Cet atelier a déjà eu lieu du 22 mars 2021 au 12 février 2022. Prochaine. Donc, 80 coordinateurs des écoles associées à l'UNESCO, le réseau ASPNET, qui a été notre cible. Donc, c'est ce public cible qu'on a essayé de former. Donc, notre premier objectif était de former les coordinateurs des écoles associées, les écoles associées à l'UNESCO. Les objectifs de la formation de manière globale, c'était initier les enseignants à la pédagogie transformationnelle, instaurer la culture de la paix dans les établissements scolaires à travers des activités simples et des clubs, élaborer des plans d'action avec des objectifs réalisables et mesurables, susceptibles de mettre en pratique la pédagogie transformationnelle en classe. Les étapes de la formation, il y avait 2 étapes. La première étape était une étape en ligne et la deuxième étape était une étape en présentiel. C'est pas grave si donc il y a un problème apparemment dans ce slide. J'ai juste résumé ce qui a eu lieu. Donc il y avait 2 grandes étapes de la formation. La première étape était une étape en ligne et la deuxième étape était une étape en présentiel. Est-ce qu'on peut passer à la... Très bien, là, je vous fais part d'une photo qui a eu lieu lors de la première partie, qui est une étape en ligne, dans laquelle, je résume un peu ce qu'on a fait, donc, dans laquelle on a introduit la pédagogie transformationnelle aux participants et on a parlé un peu du contexte de la violence par laquelle passe la Tunisie, comme tous les autres pays. Donc, on a aussi mis l'accent dans cette première étape sur l'impact du Covid-19, sur la fermeture des écoles et sur la montée de la violence dans nos établissements scolaires. Prochaine présentation. Donc, la deuxième partie de cette formation a été régionale. Donc, puisqu'il y avait un lapsus de temps, on va dire, une grande durée vu le Covid-19 et son impact sur la fermeture des écoles et sur les restrictions sanitaires, il y avait une grande période de temps entre la première étape qui est en ligne et la deuxième étape qui est en présentiel. Donc, on a organisé des rencontres régionales avec les participants, dans lesquelles on a essayé de résumer les outputs de la première partie. On a aussi résumé le contenu de la première partie de la formation et on a annoncé par la même occasion la compétition qui a eu lieu grâce à cette formation. Et on a appelé la formation, on a intitulé la compétition « Éducation à la paix et au vivre ensemble », à laquelle les coordinateurs du réseau ASPNET sont invités à participer à travers des travaux artistiques de leurs élèves. c'est-à-dire avec des dessins, des pièces de théâtre, des écrits romanesques ou bien des poèmes. Donc, je vous fais la part des photos qui ont eu lieu lors de ces rencontres régionales. Donc, il y avait 3 rencontres. La première dans le sud de pays, la deuxième dans le centre de pays, et la troisième dans le nord de la Tunisie. La troisième étape, je considère personnellement comme la plus importante parce qu'elle a permis une rencontre directe et en présentiel avec les participants, entre les formateurs et les participants. Donc, afin de rester dans la continuité, l'atelier a été composé de 3 groupes. On a 5 sessions peuplant l'intégralité, on peuplait plutôt l'intégralité de la formation. Des modules de formation ont été élaborés pour cette formation. Pendant ces 5 sessions, il y avait 3 formatrices. Donc, les 3 formatrices ont expliqué aux participants la spécificité de la pédagogie transformationnelle comme étant une approche éducative novatrice, conciliant réflexion et sensation, l'apprentissage et le vécu de l'apprenant. Donc, si je peux passer à la... Donc, l'un des outputs les plus importants de cette formation, c'est la galerie d'art. Donc, grâce à cette galerie d'art qu'on a proposée, on a montré comment la pédagogie transformationnelle encourage le côté artistique chez nos élèves et on s'est appuyé sur la pédagogie transformationnelle pour instaurer la paix, du moins au sein de nos établissements scolaires à travers des pratiques simples, c'est-à-dire avec des travaux artistiques faits par les élèves eux-mêmes. La prochaine... Donc, puisqu'on n'a pas apparemment beaucoup de temps, donc si on a le temps à la fin de la présentation, on peut faire une projection de la vidéo qui montre en exergue, qui montre les travaux de nos élèves en Tunisie. C'est une apologie de la paix. Donc, les livrables de cette formation sur la pédagogie transformationnelle, il y avait un module de formation, un rapport d'activité, un rapport financier et surtout des plans d'action élaborés par les participants, qui sont les enseignants. Grâce à ces plans d'action, on a pu instaurer la paix et renforcer la résilience dans nos écoles scolaires tunisiennes à travers des plans d'action mesurables, avec des objectifs mesurables, des plans d'action avec lesquels on peut attester plus tard les objectifs, les résultats, avec des résultats bien clairs. Et on a reçu des travaux extraordinaires dans ce sens, c'est-à-dire il y avait des plans d'action très intéressants. Donc, moi, j'ai proposé un plan d'action, je peux le partager avec vous plus tard pour vous montrer comment on a pu concrètement sur le terrain pratiquer la pédagogie transformationnelle dans les établissements scolaires. Je peux le partager plus tard avec vous pour voir comment on a... Donc là, je vous fais part de la brochure qui a été réservée à la galerie d'art, qui fait l'apologie de la paix, une galerie d'art qui était très intéressante, à travers laquelle les élèves ont pu exprimer leur attachement à la paix, on peut exprimer comment on peut être pacifique, même au sein d'un contexte qui est quand même assez violent. Prochaine présentation. Donc là, c'est une photo de groupe qu'on a eu à la fin de la formation en présentiel. Donc, l'impact de la formation de manière concrète, qu'est-ce qu'on a pu gagner grâce à cette formation? Donc, maintenant, on a des enseignants, des coordinateurs des écoles associées conscients de l'ampleur de leur mission et ayant les compétences requises pour protéger nos élèves contre les manifestations de l'extrémisme violent. Donc, grâce aussi à cette formation, on a une élévation très importante du nombre des écoles associées à l'UNESCO. On est passé de 80 écoles associées à 350 écoles associées, grâce au succès notamment de cette formation. Donc, on a aussi un partenariat avec les clubs associés à l'UNESCO. Grâce à l'élévation très importante de nombre d'adhérents au réseau des clubs associés, on a dû désigner des points focaux au sein des commissariats et des délégations nationales, donc qui nous aident maintenant à former eux-mêmes les enseignants. Donc, on tient à continuer ce travail, qu'il soit un travail quotidien dans nos écoles, mais pour le faire, il nous faut quand même un contact direct, presque quotidien avec les formateurs et avec les coordinateurs des écoles associées. C'est pourquoi faire cette étape un point focal au sein de chaque délégation régionale a été important pour maintenir justement ce contact et avec les enseignants et pour continuer notre travail sur la propagation de la pédagogie transformationnelle dans nos écoles. Et enfin, je tiens à préciser qu'on a, grâce au succès et à la réussite de cette formation avec ICBA, on a maintenant un nouvel accord avec ICBA dont l'objectif est l'élaboration d'une feuille de route nationale sur l'éducation à la paix et à la citoyenneté.
I think Ms. Ilham has finished her part. I'm not sure. I get a frozen screen.
En se basant sur la simplification scolaire vers un objectif beaucoup plus grandiose, c'est-à-dire à l'échelle gouvernementale, faire une feuille de route nationale qui sera une référence dans le domaine de la propagation de la paix et la construction de la paix grâce effectivement à la pédagogie transformationnelle et son fonctionnement dans les classes en Tunisie. Je vous remercie pour votre attention et je tiens à partager avec vous plus tard la vidéo, c'est-à-dire la vidéo qui met en exergue la galerie d'art qui fait l'apologie de la paix grâce à nos élèves, grâce aux travaux de nos élèves, et le plan d'action qu'on a élaboré, qu'une collègue tunisienne, une enseignante tunisienne a élaboré pour vous montrer comment on a pu user de la pédagogie transformationnelle sur le terrain dans nos classes en Tunisie. Je vous remercie pour votre attention.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Ilham, for this great presentation. I think similar to Kenya, the ASPE network is also having a lot of lessons learned, as well as, of course, similar to the other youth representatives. As a wrap-up of our interactive session, I would like to emphasize the role of youth at different levels and their willingness to contribute to the transformative pedagogy in Africa, whether using the virtual spaces or the physical spaces as one. We have seen a lot of contributions and engagements of school students and university students as well, interacting with different activities for promoting interreligious dialogue and different types of dialogue as well, including political and climate change challenges. From here, I would like to thank our speakers for this interactive session, and I hope I have moderated this session in an interactive way as well. To thank our participants for sharing their interactions within the chat books, and I may handle the talk now to our friend Eleonora.
Okay, thank you, Mena. Thank you for the brilliant moderation. It was really great. So we're not going to have breakout session because of time. So I hand over to Eleonora for the plenary session. So Eleonora, you can take over.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you for all the presenters. It was very interesting. So yes, as Sal said, we are running out of time, but I think to see all these experiences in action, to see the varieties of the adaptation and all really the creativity that has been put into adapting the program and into using the transformative pedagogy approach was very interesting for all of us. And I do note we had over 90 people connected at some point, a very active chat. So really thank you for all the presenters and thank you for all the participants for the engagement. At this point, what we would like to invite, first of all, if you have 10 more minutes of patience, because in addition to the reflections from our colleagues, the presenters, we would also like to collect some of your reflections from all the participants. Therefore, as you can see, my colleague Xavier is sharing with us this question. And this is a question we're going to take it in plenary, so the interpreters will continue to support us as well. It's really a question for us to explore what opportunities and challenges did you all face while you were integrating and implementing this program? We saw some of the opportunities from the different countries, from more north to east to Southern Africa, that have presented today. But we also would like to hear from all of you and really let us know what opportunities and what challenges, and also how did you integrate the use of the youth guide in the program? How useful was that? How challenging was that? What else would you need also to go deeper in the implementation of this approach? This is an open question, so we would really invite everyone to please unmute yourself or raise your hand, and we would leave you the floor. And Xavier will be kindly collecting these recommendations for us. We want to remind, today is just the beginning of the experience sharing. We have planned for this event to go over the 3 days, and therefore all the reflections, all the recommendations we're collecting today will really feature and feed into the conversations we're having tomorrow and then also on the 3rd day. So I see Crimson, your hand is up. So please, Crimson, over to you.
Okay, good day, everyone. In implementing our program, one of the challenges we had, or should I say a stepping stone, was understanding the language that the younger adults, the preteens, speak. And not just understanding it, but trying to marry their perspective with what we had, with the intention we had on how to run the program. I will notice that a lot of creativity was built into it. We had to make it more, basically more of fun and more of an informal approach. So what we talked about was bullying. We spoke on bullying as a barrier to learning, to education. And so we had inclusiveness. Everybody was on hand. All the participants and presenters all worked together to put the program the way they wanted it. So we also looked at the time frame. It wasn't more than an hour and 15 minutes, so that because of the attention span of the preteens, for them to keep for the engagement to remain lively instead of becoming bothersome. So that was it. Thank you.
Thank you, Crimson. So these are two very important points. One is really about the inclusive language and ensure when we create opportunities for intergenerational dialogue, we're actually using a common language that is inclusive of everyone and that can be understood by everyone. And the second one, you rightly point out, a time-sensitive matter that often accompanies us when we run our session, and we have to be creative to really, foster participation. We've been using today some of those tools like the Mentimeter, like the Jamboard, and hopefully these are also tools that can be adapted and used by you during your sessions. I saw that there was Lucky Patrice from Cameroon. Please, the floor is yours.
Ah non, ça va, ça va. Je voulais juste apporter une précision, mais je pense que ça va, les participants ont compris. Il faut juste être précis et concis parce qu'il y a beaucoup de gens qui vont intervenir et voilà, c'était tout.
Yeah, allez-y, vous pouvez apporter la précisation et Xavier va noter dans le Jamboard.
Ok, je reviens avec.
Okay, thank you. Ruth, over to you.
Good afternoon from Zambia. Okay, looking at the question, the opportunities that came with the integrating and implementing the program in Zambia, we created the peace clubs in the 3 provinces of our country and created the peace clubs within the universities and colleges, of which the groups that have been created, we've been running some meetings and discussing the possible ways of implementing the activities that will engage everyone else in the universities and colleges where we've created these peace clubs. Then one of the challenges, how to work well with the persons with disabilities. There are some students, or youth leaders who are faced with challenges when it comes to attending some of the meetings due to their disability. So we are looking at what the solutions that can be put in place in order to ensure that the youth with disabilities or the students with disabilities in these universities and colleges are well incorporated in our programs. And making use of the youth guide was one of the ways that helped to ensure that our programs was well implemented. The youth guide had well interpreted points, and it worked for the better, and highly contributed to the process of implementing the program in our country. Thank you so much. Nawakwi Ruth from Zambia.
Thank you, Ruth, for sharing with us the Zambian experience and for pointing out to those very important points, really giving voice and a role to youth for action, and then making sure that we can create spaces that are inclusive and safe for people with disabilities as well to participate, as this is part and parcel of the transformative pedagogy approach. Eunice, I see your hand up. The floor is yours, and then for the others, just raise your hand and help us with collecting comments about opportunities and challenges on this program. Eunice, over to you.
Yes, Leonora. One of the challenges we really faced during the training was integrating, like Dr. Ruth said before, integrating the peace building, transformative pedagogy for youth in informal settlement, and especially those who are not well educated. So making it informal enough so that they could understand it, especially the youth guide. It was quite a challenge since most of the youth were willing to understand the training or to participate with youth initiatives for peace, but they could not get the real message from the youth guide. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Eunice. And I think this is a very important point in terms of really maybe simplifying the language and offering rather analytical tools to understand violence, to understand contextual issues that can be more practical. So thank you for this remark again. And I see Patrice Laki from Cameroon and then Sahel. So Patrick, over to you, and then Saleh.
Ok, merci beaucoup, Eleonora, pour la parole donnée. En fait, je voulais juste qu'on se remette dans le contexte, par exemple, le contexte de l'Afrique et de l'Afrique centrale particulièrement, qui ces derniers temps, ces dernières années, a subi beaucoup de violences et beaucoup de troubles de la paix. Et pour se positionner après au niveau des opportunités, parce qu'en fait, l'atelier qu'on a eu à Douala était vraiment indispensable, vraiment essentiel pour créer en fait une synergie d'action. On a vu des associations qui se mobilisent pour la culture de la paix, on a vu des associations qui se mobilisent pour la préservation de la paix et ainsi de suite. Donc, on peut dire que ça rentre véritablement dans le Act Local and Think Global. Donc, on va créer, ça a permis de créer une synergie, un réseau d'action. Et je pense que c'est là même l'opportunité de l'initiative et de l'approche transformationnelle. Donc, c'était ça ma modeste contribution. Et je reviens si jamais j'ai d'autres activités ou bien d'autres interventions à faire.
Merci beaucoup Patrice, et merci aussi pour souligner le contexte de l'Afrique centrale et les besoins aussi qui le programme a adressé, a ciblé vraiment. Merci. Donc il y avait Saleh. Saleh, do you want to take the floor? I saw your hand was up. And otherwise, Diallo Adama, the floor is yours.
Bonjour tous.
Bonjour.
Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Oui.
J'espère que vous m'entendez. Mon réseau est un peu faible tout de même.
On vous entend très bien.
Oui, très bien, merci. Ici, à Mauritanie, je ne sais pas si mon collègue Denebja est connecté. On n'est pas dans le même bureau en ce moment. C'est un formateur comme moi. Nous avons suivi la formation de Dakar et avions profité pour nous-mêmes former en présence. Salut, salut, est-ce que vous m'entendez? Salut, Sal. Nous avions donc.
Diallo, je t'entends très bien. Adama, je t'entends très bien.
Bonjour.
Merci.
Très bien, salut.
Merci
Je ne sais
beaucoup.
pas si mon collègue Mohamed est connecté. Je n'ai pas eu le temps de vérifier la liste des participants, mais ce que je sais, c'est que depuis notre formation assurée par Salut à l'époque, une formation de 4 jours au mois de novembre, nous sommes aux années 2019, 2020, 2019. Nous avions eu à former 40 formateurs pour la prévention de la violence dans les écoles. C'était essentiellement des professeurs des lycées et des inspecteurs. Donc, nous avions assuré cette formation en collaboration avec Selikba et Salif Sall était notre modérateur à l'époque. Nous avons connu quand même quelques difficultés pour l'application sur le terrain. Il faut reconnaître que le concept de prévention de la violence n'est pas tellement connu ici chez nous. On ne s'estime pas très violent, mais nous avions noté ça et là dans les écoles, quelquefois, voyez-vous, des violences contre des filles, etc. Donc, nous avons initié quand même au niveau de ces établissements cibles des formateurs qui devaient être les relais au niveau.
Allô, on a perdu ou quoi?
Aïe, l'effet de la formation de ces gens, ces établissements d'autres. Il aurait mieux voir.
I think we might have some connection problems.
Yes, exactly.
So, Mr. Adama, maybe you can write in the chat and Xavier will note in the Jamboard. And I see Mendes Silva. You've raised your hand. The floor is yours.
Yes, good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. We can hear you well. Please go ahead.
Yes, from Namibia. We had our peace building training earlier this month. The opportunities that I collected in that program, it was a 1-week training, and what I enjoyed the most is like that connectivity, networking, team building spirit. It was a good idea because we end up meeting different people from different towns, and then we share idea on how you can build peace within the country and the outside region. And also, we went through some challenges, especially when we went deep into some societies or villages or communities, engaging them into some of these peace building activities. You could see that the issue of language is the problem. So that's what I wanted to bring to your attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this. And again, so reminding us of the need to simplify and adapt the language of all the documents and all the resources that we have produced. And I see here we have several colleagues from Algeria, and they have produced an adaptation of the guide as well, really linking it to the local languages. So have done colleagues from Djibouti, colleagues from Ethiopia. So thank you again, Mr. Silva, for reminding us of how important this is, so that the resources and the approach can really be contextualized. And this is indeed one of the building blocks of this approach. I would like to invite other colleagues to share and give us some recommendations in terms of opportunities and challenges for integrating this program. So other colleagues, please just unmute yourself and take the floor, please. Any other colleagues? Yes, please.
Eleonora, je peux?
Yes, please.
Je voudrais juste apporter une petite contribution au niveau des challenges. Ici au Cameroun, par exemple, on a un gros souci au niveau de l'intégration, pas l'implication des jeunes. mais l'intégration des jeunes dans le cercle de réflexion et de prise de décision. Et si on veut rendre les jeunes opérationnels, il faudrait bien qu'on les invite à venir réfléchir sur comment est-ce qu'on pourra les intégrer eux. Mais dans notre contexte, c'est plus des vues de l'esprit. On se tient à l'écart et on décide pour eux. Donc, il est très important que les jeunes s'intègrent davantage, ou bien que l'ancienne génération intègre davantage la nouvelle génération, et après que chacun dit ce qu'il a dit pour que les choses soient faites clairement. Donc, en fait, c'était ça, ma contribution. Merci, Léonard.
Patrick, any reactions to this note that Patrice shared? And I see Michelle, you have raised your hand. Please go ahead. Also commenting on this last point from Patrice.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I think what Patrice has raised is vital. And if taken into consideration, it would really inform many programs as we implement the program across the continent, and also understanding the context to which what he is alluding to is implementable. In terms of the opportunities, I realized that as we are implementing the program in Zimbabwe, since our approach was to engage with the ministry, it is strategic for us. I don't know if it would be considered in other countries, but engaging with the ministries is strategic because they are the custodians of the curricula, because it would ensure that transformative pedagogy is not just implemented even at the higher institutions of learning only, but it will build that culture where transformative pedagogy is introduced from primary school and secondary education level. And this in turn would transform conflicts, because if people know about the need for peace when they are young, then it is easier for them to be controlled, if I may say, when it comes to conflicts and extremism in our context. And also the fact that we're able to ensure representation of all provinces and types of educational institutions makes sure that the program is not somehow elitist to only universities, but also to teacher training colleges, technical institutions, as well as youth in marginalized areas, so that the program will also be sustainable. And while we are implementing, maybe the opportunity is also in ensuring visibility of the programs through various means, for example, media, all forms of media, mass media and social media. The issue of language has been spoken about, and even engaging artists and those who do arts to portray the knowledge which we are sharing in books as pictures, and maybe some short films, and the importance of peace within our communities. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Michelle, for these recommendations. Very precise, very to the point, and they have been captured in the Jamboard that we're gonna use and continue to discuss also tomorrow. I know we are going over the time, and I know you've all been very kind to give us 15 additional minutes, but we don't want to abuse of your patience, and we will continue the discussions tomorrow and after tomorrow. So we're very glad for these recommendations. This will be our departing point tomorrow, together with all the reflections that we gathered, and also together with the Mentimeter that we have launched at the beginning of today. So I think without further ado, Sal, I would like to hand over to you for a formal closing of this first day of works. Sal, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Eleonora. I would like at this point, and on behalf of the director and all colleagues from IGBA and Alligator, to thank all participants for their valuable contributions to the success of these sessions, and for sharing very important experience. And I hope that this will continue in the following two days. So we'll be glad to welcome you again for the session of tomorrow and the day after. So thank you very much. The experience, the meeting was rich, discussion was rich. That's why we have gone over the time, but I think it was worth it. So thank you for attending and see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.